Fellow tennis nerds, you've probably seen this backdrop before. Been hanging out at Toroline HQ. Last time we did a video about strings. We talked about all kinds of Toroline strings. We went through the whole range and we talked about strings in general, like how you pair a string, what to think about, like everything around tennis strings, especially in terms of co-polyester strings. But we got a lot of questions, so we're gonna tackle the questions today. Shout out to Toroline, shout out to Eric. He's been a very gracious host during my time in LA. You've probably seen maybe some videos on Instagram where I make a fool out of myself as usual, but it's been very, very much fun, and you only live once. So we do have two rackets here. This is the Kachano Personal. This is the Aero, I think it's the 100, right? Strung up with his new setup, the A5 string, coming to you very soon if it's not already out when we're talking to you. It's my favorite new string. It's kind of like I feel like an improved all the power, better tension maintenance, very stable string, some really good snapback and spin potential from the string. So yeah, I really love it. I'm going to keep using it in my Aeros. Of all the rackets we've tested a lot of rackets this week, me and Eric. There's one that kind of speaks to us both, but we'll get to that maybe in a month or two. But we have some questions today we want to talk about. Fellow tennis nerds, we're in the car, me and Eric. He has a Tesla, so he doesn't need to look at the road. We started the video on his court, but the camera decided to melt. Going to watch UCLA, right? Huge match. Yep. I've never been to a college game before, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm here with my buddy Eric from Toroline. We have tried to do this conversation in LA a few times, partly once in a car. Once the phone kind of melted because it's too hot, and the car sound was a bit too much noise. I have some parts of it here, but it's still a little bit tricky. So we're going to do it more as a podcast now. He is in Toroline headquarters. You've seen in our previous video called String Theory. This one will relate to that, but we'll talk about your questions. I always ask the guest first, how are you today?
Doing good. I was a little sad putting this wall up. You know, I was picturing you coming over 30 minutes later to shoot some more videos, but we'll run it back next time you're in LA.
For sure. I love LA. I'll come back, and hanging out with you has made it even better. So it's always a vibe, you know. And that wall is so cool. I think people really love it.
Yeah, we got all the new sticks, all still in the plastic wrap. So maybe we give one or two away. You know, part of your working at Toroline, which makes it so fun, is that we get to play test all the rackets. We don't manufacture rackets, so. And I don't ever plan to, just because I think it takes away the fun of, you know, being a tennis nerd and being able to try all the different rackets. So yeah, it's fine. And then our string obviously in the rackets as well, to see kind of what pairs nicely with certain models. And yeah, just helping the customer, you know, find the perfect racket and string combo.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about is obviously we've got a lot of questions. Like, I want to try a Toroline string, but I have this racket, and that's a thing, you know, in tennis. Like, you have to pair the right string with the right racket, and when you have the racket, then it's time to start testing strings, and it can get kind of bothersome. And I think we mentioned a lot of things in relation to that in the string theory videos. If you haven't watched that, please watch that back. We might bring up some new ideas today, but when you are getting a racket that you want to try, like let's say the new blades that we try, we can talk so much about them. What's your thinking process around, like, I should pair this with this string in terms of your own setup? You know?
Yeah, I think for I know the new blades have a little thicker beam, so more power. But I try to think about it in terms of one, stiffness, right? So blade, it's a lower RA, not as stiff as maybe like a pure drive. So it's a relatively comfortable string. I would say in terms of power, you know, not the most powerful racket. It's more of a player's racket, right? There's obviously the two different string patterns, the 1820, 1619. So yeah, if you're going with a tighter string pattern, you might want to consider a thinner gauge, right? I think if you just put like a 130, really stiff string in an 1820, naturally, that's just not going to have much power, and maybe good for the pros. Might be okay if you go low tension as well. So I think just, yeah, consider the gauge and the stiffness. Because yeah, you don't want something that's overly boardy, especially if you're looking to pop the serve. I think going lower in the gauge, also lower in tension, and also maybe consider going a little bit lower in tension on the crosses, especially if it's 1820, right? Because you just have so many lines on the cross. I think just to offset that density, just go a little bit lower on the cross. And then, yeah, for the blade, I personally like Otoro. I think, to be honest, like that was, I think, primarily the racket that we were using at the time we were R&Ding Otoro. So I think it's just like a perfect fit. It has a hexagonal shape. So you get a little bit more lift because the blade is primarily, I would say, has a lower launch angle than call it the average racket. So gives it a little bit higher launch. Has really good snapback. So even though it has a higher launch, the ball also dips, right? So I think you get the benefit of raising the launch angle, but also getting the dip to carry the ball in. Maybe a hybrid as well. Like if you're going 18-20, maybe go really smooth on the cross, so you get more snapback, and it kind of opens up the string bed a little bit, right? Because with 18-20, if you put like a really shaped string in the mains and cross, you're just gonna get a lot of friction, right? Of the crosses eating into the main. So I would say, yeah, maybe try like a round or octagonal in the cross just to open up the string pattern. Especially if it's like an 18-20 is a good consideration. And then I think rounder strings have more pop, right? So if you feel like you're using 18-20, feels great on the ground use, you're just not getting enough on the serve, just go with the rounder string just to get the extra pop.
Yeah, I agree. I think softer string in like a control-oriented racket is generally the way to go. And if it's dense pattern, like softer and shaped, as you suggest with Otoro, I sometimes recommend like Otoro spin from your
Mm-hmm.
strings when it comes to like
Yeah, yeah.
statical MP, which is pretty much like a blade from head, right? And many rackets
Yep.
still in that control segment today. So you open up a bit more pocketing, you open up a bit more bite. So you're getting a bit more on the ball, but you still should have enough confidence to hit your targets, kind of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. So a lot of it's just trial and error, right? We also have a chat box on our website. So if there's any, questions that you have about your particular setup, maybe you're looking to switch to a new racket, want to know if we've tested it or not, there's a good chance we have. Like you can see right here, like we try to buy all the top selling rackets in the market. So I'll pull up over here. So you can see, yeah, we got like, anything like Yonex. Obviously, we're testing a lot of Wilsons, Heads, Babolat's, Dunlops, Princes, Stratum, Technofiber. So yeah, if it's a top selling racket, there's a good chance our team members have had the racket in their hands and we've probably tried multiple setups, right? Like you said, it's not necessarily a racket's not a good racket. It's just sometimes it's a bad pairing. So
Yeah, it's true. Talking about flexible rackets, I would say there was one question here from Glade Master. Which
mhm.
one of the strings should I try with the head squared racket? And I want to mention that I have not tried the squared, neither have you, as far as I know. And it's a very flexible, very headlight racket, as far as I've heard from Henrik, who has tried the racket. But if we talk about like a similar racket, like maybe the Clash, Yonex Muse, we haven't tried either, but that's also in the same category of soft rackets. The issue here is like maybe when you go for like Otoro, which is a soft string, if you look at all the metrics, the issue is like you get a bit of a mushy response. Like you have flexible racket, you have flexible string. What would you recommend? Like, should you go a slightly stiffer string to kind of even out the response from that very trampoline racket, or how should you deal with it? Because usually players that use these rackets, they use them for a reason. They already have maybe a bit of a sensitivity in their arm of some kind.
Yeah, no, great question. I haven't tried the racket myself. But yeah, like you kind of mentioned, you don't want the response to be too mushy, right? Having a really soft low RA and then putting a really soft string, you're just not going to have that much, connected response to it. I personally would go like honestly, Otoro is I think a good option if you're looking for a balance between like spin, comfort. You can also like adjust the tension, right? So not necessarily like you use it out the gate. It might if it is a little bit too mushy, maybe just increase the tension, maybe like 2-3 pounds. I think that could solve it for you. But I will say, yeah, imagine that most players that are using the Muse or the squared are looking for a comfort. So you probably want to double down on it to some extent and stay away from like the Tour Flex options. And I would say for low RA, I'm not sure what the spin potential on the squared is because I haven't hit with it. But maybe nice to have like if it's too mushy, you might not get enough spin. So maybe go with like a shape co-poly, might give a little more bite. So yeah, I would say Ochar is a good option for that one.
No, I think tension is important. That raises another question, which I've dabbled with myself at times. So you have two options if you want like more comfort from a racket. Let's say you have the same racket, and you can then choose string. So you can go for a softer string. We mentioned Otoro, and you can actually have a little bit higher tension because your arm will be fine because of
Yep.
the softness of the string. Or you can go for like your Tour Flex string, like Otoro Tour, which is one of your stiffest strings. You have these Tour Flex strings, but you can drop tension. So what would you say, like stiff string dropped tension, or like a more flexible string, slightly higher tension? What do you think brings the most comfort to the user?
I would say, yeah, maybe just keep it simple. Go with the regular flex at your normal tension as a baseline. But definitely, we have a lot of players that are using Torflex in the like 30-pound range, 40-pound range, and naturally, it's just going to play softer than what it would play at if you strung it, call it like in the 50 range. But yeah, I would say Torflex is really stable at low tension. So if you're like someone that just strings 30s, 40s, definitely try the Torflex because Otoro is just not going to play as stable at low tension. So yeah, definitely. I think we start with the regular flex, keep it simple, and then maybe adjust the tension as needed. And then if you're still like, oh, I want like something more stable, but I want to drop the tension a little bit so the string gets more, maybe string movement, then yeah, you try the short flex.
I think that's a good reply. And also, you can of course experiment if you want with both strategies here. You can be a Manarino playing like 25 pounds with a stiff string, or you can try to be a Carousel and play like 60 pounds with a soft string. But obviously, if you have arm issues, always err on the side of comfort. Like always try to go soft, flexible racket generally. I know there's some discussion whether flexible versus stiff, but generally what my feeling is around that is that most players do pretty well comfort wise with like clashes and muses and squared compared to going for a pure drive kind of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And yeah, it's trial and error. So definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. But I think it's also controlling your launch angle as well. I would say stiffer strings at the same tension relative to like softer strings have a lower launch angle. So if you want the higher launch angle, definitely try to go with a softer flex string. And if you want, obviously adjust the launch based off of the shape. I would say more edge strings like pentagonal, hexagonal have a higher launch angle versus like, round and octagonal strings have a lower launch angle. So if you just want more court penetration and not as much lift, yeah, consider maybe either a stiffer string or a smoother string.
Sounds good. And you have quite the range, and we've talked about the range, and you also ranked them by stiffness in the previous.
Yeah, but we kept it up as stiffness. So stiffest string, which is Otoro Chor, all the way down to our softest string on the bottom. Naturally, it's just going to be Caviar 116. We just don't have Truffle X out here right now, but if Truffle X was here, it'd be the softest out of the bunch.
I actually got that question, like it will, because there's so many fans now of Truffle X, and you did a funny video on Instagram the other day when you dressed up like a cow and tried to play some tennis in your cow uniform.
Wait, is there a cow? What is he doing? Excuse me, sir. What are you doing? What is this? Are you stringing my racket? With what? What is this? What is this purple string? I use natural gut, sir. Excuse me. What are you doing? You just took my racket and you cut out the gut? It's really expensive. You know that?
Question was like if you have any plans to sell it as a reel, because right now it's sets. I know you're bringing out more colorways, so I'm pretty excited about that. Because I also like this string as a hybrid setup. Obviously, it's super soft and nice on the arm, and you can add it in in the cross, for example, or maybe even in the mains to soften up your setup. But do you have any plans to do it as a reel, or is that it's kind of expensive, that string, to produce? I heard.
Yeah. We're definitely trying to get into reel form. We're just trying to like make sure we don't prematurely pre-stretch it when you get it onto the reel. So just takes a little bit of R&D because it's so elastic. It's a lot harder to manage than let's say polyester strings. So we definitely have plans to get into reel form. And in terms of next variation, we're dropping a gray Truffle X. So more of a neutral color, which we're really excited about. I think also the gray color pairs nicely with like, even if you want to go loud on the mains, I think it'll complement that with the gray on the crosses. So we're excited about that one. That should drop hopefully in the next 2 months.
Exciting. Yeah, I think that will pair well. If people have more like classically minded, maybe they don't want the loud colors that you are semi-famous for. I think it makes sense to have a slightly more dampened color.
Yeah. No.
And we got some good feedback from people here, like Big Rob Sydney just moved from DR98s with all the power to Vcore with Wasabi plus Caviar. And he dropped the tension, still found control. It is awesome. And so quite a few comments. Cool video. Industry definitely needs challengers. Can't believe that people are still buying all power and RPM. They should give Restring and Toroline a try. So you got a lot of fans these days. There was one guy who had a bit of a comment about Toroline are great strings for rec players, but they'll never be useful for advanced players because the gauge options are too thin and the strings lack control. Best marketing in the game, but doesn't change that only amateurs can benefit from these. And I can comment from my end, like saying that you definitely have strings that work very well on the tour level. At the Tour Flex strings that you have, the Snap TF, and you have obviously O-Tour Tour. You have the new A5, which is my favorite. That's coming to consumers very, very soon, and you can buy it via your captain's program, right? But maybe you can answer like about the gauges. Like, why don't you offer like 130 gauge strings?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, I think the utmost consideration is just comfort, right? So we could make like a 130 O-Tour, but if you take it to like lab testing, it's just going to be, I think, in my mind, just too stiff for the average player, and even pro players. Like, they don't want to go that stiff just based off of feedback. Yes, great durability when you go thicker gauge, but honestly, the thinner the gauge, the less surface area friction that you're going to have between the mains and cross. Will translate to way better snapback, right? And that's kind of what we're known for, is the snapback, right? Which is when it goes out of place, back into place. Basically creates like a slingshot effect, right? To give you more spin and more control. So yeah, we just don't really have plans to make overly stiff strings. My mentality is playability over durability. We want to keep players on court as long as possible. And yeah, we just like, there's a lot of other really, really, really durable strings on the market. But I will say, yeah, check out like Tennis Cross University if you're curious about like lab stats, like objective data. They measure, spin potential, stiffness. I think all good things to consider when you're trying to find your next string, especially like stiffness if you're coming from someone that has like tennis elbow, shoulder issues. And when we actually created Toroline, it was actually to help a pro player with arm issues that they were having from their really stiff string. So yeah, we're playability over durability all day. So
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And also I think there's pros now like who are using soft poly and gut even. So like we see the tennis elbow epidemic and wrist issues and shoulder issues from stiff rackets also among pros, because of overuse. They play so long. It's not always just like technique related, which a lot of people, they want to say it's just about the technique, but it's actually about like overuse. And of course it can be technical, but it's also equipment, right? So
yeah. And I think with the ball quality too, I think actually like the feedback that we get from a lot of pros is they're actually looking for more power, right? So not necessarily like a stiffer control oriented string. Like they actually want more pop, more on the serve. Obviously they want to maintain the control, so what you get from polyester string. So yeah, we're just trying to maximize for playability. But I would say never for like really thick gauges, like 130. But like I said, like if we're trying to focus on just the purely like the friction between the mains and crosses, when you have more surface area touching each other, it's just going to limit that snapback potential.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes a lot of sense, and like you said, there are options from other brands. Like there's many strings out there, and you need to do what you believe in as a brand and a company, and then obviously you have Tour Flex strings that I think are stiff enough for most players. Like, I mean, I test pretty much any product on the market, and I would say like O-Tour, if you find that too flexible, I think there might be other issues, like, or you need Kevlar or something. So
Yep.
that's kind of an interesting take.
So one more thing on that is also too, if we actually took a concept from golf, right? When you look at golf clubs, right, they have regular shaft and then they have stiff shaft, right? So obviously the more advanced level players are going with stiffer shafts in golf. It's a very similar concept. What we did with the strings is like we kept it at 1, 2, 3. We locked that variable down, and then we just increased the stiffness by 15-20%, which is our Tour Flex equivalent to like a stiff shaft for golf. To basically get the more control, the more durability that I think traditionally that you would see from like a thicker gauge, right? So instead of manipulating just the gauge, we just like manipulated the layup of the string to achieve kind of what I think people are looking for in a thicker gauge string, which is control and durability.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we can learn a lot from other sports sometimes, and get out of that. Sometimes we're just stuck in tennis and just compare everything to tennis, which is kind of a traditional sport in many ways, in the way you look at it, right? I got one that I think maybe we cannot do the full one on this podcast or this conversation, but it's something we can look into making overall. Is like, I think, to put the main used rackets, and he's mentioning here Aerospeed Gravity Ezone Vcore. There are more rackets than this, of course, but those are some bestsellers. I would add Blade, for example, to that one, and soon enough the P rackets as well. So there will be rackets together with string options for these in 2-3 scenarios. So I guess like level or typical player will help us on recreational level get the best experience. And he got like 10 upvotes on that comment. So I think that's very interesting to maybe have from you guys on Toroline, like to offer, but also on my end, kind of tennis nerd recommended strings for the most popular models would make a lot of sense.
No, that's yeah. We've actually talked about that, I think, quite a few times. Maybe do a blog on the Tennis Nerd website. Just finding like the perfect pairing with every racket. That's a top seller. So I think big candidates for that would be like, the Vcore 98, which is really popular, the Blade, Pure Aero, obviously 98. We definitely, I think that's definitely something we should do. Can get a little subjective, I think, to some extent, but we'll definitely take a snapshot of like what we personally think is a good fit. And then obviously, like, we have the chat box to help you guys out if you need questions on pairings, tension. We're happy to help out.
I also want to mention, some guys commented, I might have not changed this everywhere, but we had to reduce the discount to 10% on if you use Tennis Nerd to buy Toroline strings from Toroline.com. The reason is obviously that they have more distributors now, and we cannot keep like the very generous 20% discount, but it's going to be 10% permanently now, as far as I understand, right there.
Yep, 10%. We actually didn't increase the prices like other brands when the tariffs obviously took into effect. We locked the prices. The discounting, it's 10%, but we still have deals throughout the year. So obviously, Black Friday and whatnot, definitely stock up then.
Maybe you talk about this, like, so you didn't up the prices. Is your strategy in general to have like a pretty friendly pricing strategy? I know you are very like generous with giving out demo sets. I watched you around Indian Wells, and you met got like got grips, caps, and sets and everything. And I know you're a very generous guy, but like that's, I guess, is your pricing policy.
It's a little more scalable.
But
a little more scalable at Indian Wells, where you just can hand the customer a sample string or sample grip. Obviously, not as scalable when you have to ship it out, especially like internationally. So not something that we would do too frequently, but we have like deals all the time, like throughout the year. So if you're looking for a good deal, and also right now, if you spend more than $100, we're also giving a free 3-pack of our Tor overgrip. Definitely take advantage of the deals as they come. And we want to like keep the price competitive. I think if you look at our string relative to other top selling strings on the market, it's still a lot lower than theirs. And if you also like just look at playability, durability relative to some of the top selling strings on the market, I think it's super competitive.
And you had some interesting comment here. Like, one of the most asked for recommendations that I've seen in the comments is the new Vcore 98. I'm not sure you've gotten a lot of time with that one, but I have. I generally feel like in that racket, I would prefer like a slightly stiffer string, because I think, and maybe some shapes. So like Tour, I think works really well in the like Ezone and Vcores for my liking. But obviously, if you're a bit sensitive with your arm, I think maybe going regular Tour is a better choice. So what would you say?
I tried the 100D, which you kindly left me, and kind of depends on the launch. I think the 100D, maybe you can speak to like the launch angle versus the 98. 100D felt like had pretty good lift on it, so I definitely didn't feel like I needed a shape string in the 100D, even though it's technically a denser string pattern, but obviously a bigger head size. So that one, actually, I would probably use A5 in that one, just because it already has enough like natural lift on the ball that I don't think I would put more shaped string in it to give it even more lift, right? Because I think it would be hard to control the depth. So I would say, yeah, A5 would be my choice in that racket. I'd probably string a little bit tighter just because with a bigger head size. And honestly, even though it was a denser string pattern, like if you look at the grid, actually it felt pretty open.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I would say they are not the launchiest, these new rackets, not as launchy as the previous Vcores. So they are a little bit less string sensitive to me in that sense. But so you could probably put like A5. I mean, I like A5 in pretty much anything because I like the string so much. But then, like in my head, I know when I was testing I was actually playing like matches and stuff with the Ezone 98, and then I tried so many setups. I felt like that was a more string sensitive racket. But then the Ezone obviously has a much lower launch angle, so that's also why the Otoro Tour Mint worked a bit better, because I felt like the launch was so low. But then it's kind of a pingy racket, so you have to kind of make sure you don't string it too high because it might be a
Yep.
stiff setup overall.
Yeah, Ezone's a little more, I would say, yeah, string sensitive. In general, if you look at rackets in general, but like, yeah, like it just depends. Yeah, kind of like the launch angle that you're looking for, and you can also fine tune it with like maybe you go a little less shaped on the crosses, right? So if you like the ball grip from the mains, right, when you're brushing up on the ball, but you want to just like fine tune the launch angle just slightly lower, then you can go a little bit rounder on the cross, right? So you get the benefit of the ball grip when you're brushing up on the ball. But then you also will drop the launch slightly just with the rounder cross. So
I got some interesting here from James Jerfy. That's obviously a username. Am I an insane person for stringing my T-Fight 300S with Otoro Tour mains, 48 pounds, and Truffle X in the crosses, 53 pounds, with 10% pre-stretch? I'm pretty into it. The 300S from Tecnifiber is pretty arm-eating, so I want to see if it saved my arm.
yeah, no, it's good you did the pre-stretch. So yeah, Truffle X. We always suggest at least 5-10% pre-stretch. Obviously, if you're going lower in tension, you can do higher than 10% pre-stretch. What that does is it just locks in the tension, right? Because it's such an elastic string that if you don't pre-stretch it, what happens is as you're playing, the string will just keep stretching, right? And then you'll just lose a lot of the tension. But yeah, if it's working for you, you're not crazy. I love to hear that you're liking it. Truffle X is, yeah, it's one of our top sellers. Super unique in terms of the elasticity. So I feel like you won't get a full appreciation for it if you're not the stringer stringing it. When you tension the string, I think, Jonas, you probably have tensioned it. You can see that it literally pulls as far back as natural gut, relative to like polyesters, which will pull back maybe like, less than half of the stretchiness. So yeah, Truffle X, I would say, yeah, I mean, most people are using it in the 50 range. So I would say that's a good range. It's just kind of like how we think about it is string it like natural gut or like a multi-filament. Most people aren't stringing like gut at like 30 pounds. So like, can you? Obviously you can. But if you're going lower in tension, definitely just do a higher pre-stretch.
I got some questions about your collaboration with Prince. People are excited. They asked about the purple racket that was seen briefly in one of my videos. Can you say something about the Prince Toroline collaboration that's coming up in a few months?
Yeah, no, we're super excited about it. I'm holding it right now. This is a blacked out version, but it's got the final specs. This is actually the final colorway for the string. We're just trying to fine tune the flex, but we're working with Prince to design a string for their new ATS tour. It's the 98 version, 1619. Jonas and I hit a bunch of different models, but this is the one I gravitated towards. It's like a player's frame. What I like about it has a little thicker beam. It's also box beam, which I love just because I used to use like, a lot of box beam rackets back in the day, like the Prestige. So it's got that like, I think traditional face on it. And yeah, the thicker beam, I think makes it a little bit more modern of a choice just because you get more pop from the thicker beam. And yeah, the string that we're going to use in it, it's in production right now. So I think the ATS tour drops in May, and then ours will be a limited run in August this year. So like during the US Open. But yeah, stay tuned for that one. And then, like I said, it's a limited edition. So, but with the strings won't be limited run. It will be, you can order as many as you like, and we'll keep that up as long as, as we possibly can. And then the regular version of the ATS you can buy freely in May. So we're excited about that as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a good collab. I tried the Racket as well, like the Prince rackets, and they're excellent. I think overall it's my favorite line from Prince, the Tours, and I think overall the best-selling line they have actually. So if you want control, and I do know that people really love the previous ATS Tour 98, judging from reviews, I felt it was a bit too muted, but I feel like this one has fixed that issue from the previous one.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The other one had a really
exciting.
low RA. Yeah, the other one had a really low RA, and this one, I think, just to make it a little bit more modern of a racket, they increased the RA, so you just get a little more plow through on the ball and a little more stability, especially on returns. So yeah, I think also the feel feels just a little more connected. So yeah, we're excited about it. I mean, it's their best seller, so it's like can't go wrong with this option.
Do you have any like general thoughts when you're testing rackets? Like, what are you looking for in a racket when you want to play your tennis with it? Like, what's kind of your preference in terms of rackets? I'm just curious about that. I think there was also
Yeah.
another comment about your racket preference.
So I would say when you're demoing rackets, don't just stop at just ground strokes, right? I think you definitely have to take it with on like serves. So if you're like, oh, it feels great on the groundies, and you're like, I'm just gonna go buy it. Make sure you take it, try some serves, just because what may feel good on one stroke may not work as well on another stroke. Like for example, I've tried a couple rackets here where it felt great on groundies, felt super pure, and I just wasn't getting enough pop on my serve. I'm not like 6'4", so I need a little help from the serves. That's why actually I think I gravitate towards thicker beams nowadays. Just because obviously when you use poly, you're getting a lot of control. So just to give it a little bit more juice, I think the thicker beam rackets help with that. But I would say, yeah, serve is really important for me. Like I want my like kick serve to jump, right? And I also want to be able to hit my targets with good pace on the serve. So if I'm not very accurate on the serve or I'm not getting enough kick, then I might have to like maybe add some lead tape, maybe go lower in tension, or try a different model of her strings. Or maybe it's just not a good fit for me in my game. So I'd say serve is really important for me nowadays, especially because I primarily play doubles. So I'm not really hitting too many groundies nowadays. But yeah, I obviously want it to feel nice and pure off the groundies. But I would say serve is probably my most primary consideration for rackets.
Of the new rackets you have tried together with me in LA, right? We tried new blades, we tried Python, which is not going to be called Python. Let's say the P rackets. What were you most excited about of these rackets?
Ooh, new rackets. I don't know if I can talk about it, but one of the P models, I thought they did an excellent job on. It's I would say thicker beam as well. I don't think many people have that racket, so that was I think one of the I would say more exciting rackets that I tried, just because it was a thick beam racket, but it had a flex like almost like an H22, which you don't really get from like I would say like thicker beam rackets. So, but you got like a lot of pop, and you also got a lot of feel. So that was a really unique one. I think honestly, I keep going back to that one. So that was a really good racket. And I think you enjoyed it a lot as well. So yeah. So that was a good racket. I would say excellent update on Wilson's part. And we tried with A5, and just like that was, I just think about that combo a lot.
Yeah, the new Wilson rackets, both the blades and the P rackets, especially the 100 for us, all worked really well with your new string A5. But it's not for sale yet, right? So when will it be out for the average consumer? Like you need to be a captain member on Toroline, right?
Yeah, so A5, yeah, you can get it through Captain's Club. It's readily available. It's soft launch right now, but we're getting our shipment in, I think, in about 10 days. So end of March, you should be able to just buy freely on our website. And it's a 1.25 round co-poly. I think the really interesting about that string is it's not another co-poly. It got a really high spin score on Racquetpedia. So it got 100 out of 100 spin rating for a round string. That's like super rare, just because how they're looking at spin is they're looking at the ball grip, right? But you're not going to get any ball grip from round strings, right? Because it's just there's no profile to bite into the ball. So to get that high spin score, you effectively need a lot of snapback, right, to offset the lack of ball grip. And that one we're super excited about. You tried it, I think, in a couple of rackets, like the Pure Arrow. We tried it, I think, in the Boom, the new P rackets. So that one, like, it's it's a really good, I think, fit for a lot of rackets. And then you can just kind of mess with the tension a little bit. And for round strings, I would say like on the crosses, you could actually even drop it maybe even more than 2 pounds. If you want like a slightly higher launch. Some players like we work with pro players that use round strings, like they'll go 3 or 4 pounds lower on the cross, just get a little bit more lift on the ball.
And that's a good point as well to mention that you do have more and more pro players using your strings. So you have a latest string that's coming up with like Julian Cash, right? The doubles specialist is really high ranked.
Yeah, we're super excited about that one. It's a variation off the A5. So we made it like a double specific string, right? Because he had a year one number one year end last year in ATP, so it doubles. So yeah, we basically wanted something. He wanted something that was a little bit more forgiving off of returns, right? And he wanted something had a little more dwell time on his first volley. So it has a slightly softer flex than the standard A5. And that one's good. Yeah, drop soon. I think around April we'll have some stock available. So we're super excited about that one.
Cool. That will be fun to test as well. And I have some more questions here from the tennis nerds. Looking for a good string or hybrid to pair with a Pure Drive 100 to get a bit more spin out of it. So the Pure Drive 100 is the latest Pure Drive 100 is very popular for a good reason. It's a pretty comfortable, easy to use racket. Got some power, but nothing too crazy. Do you have any like recommendations that come to mind straight away?
Yeah. I would say pull over here. Toro Spin on the mains, I think would be an excellent option. Right here, it's a pentagonal shaped co-poly. So with pentagonal strings, you're gonna get a higher launch angle. It has really good snapback, so that snapback will bring the ball up and it'll bring it back down. So I would say, yeah, maybe this as a full bed. Just try that as a baseline, and then you can obviously tweak your launch angle or your feel by maybe going with a rounder string on the cross. So yeah, a lot of different options. I think Wasabi X is pretty popular as well on the Pure Drive because it's got really elastic response, right? So I think it helps with the dwell time. The Pure Drive, it can be a little bit hot off the string bag just because the RA, you can correct me, it's pretty high. I don't know what the unstrung RA is exactly, but it's like plus or minus 2 around 70, right, Jonas? So I'd say this kind of helps complement the high RA because it has a softer elastic response.
Yeah, it's a pretty high RA on that one. The dampening helps though, where there's like fiberglass or flax fibers in the layup that actually makes it, I would say, the most comfortable Pure Drive. But still, I think if you use a too stiff string, I would say it would maybe be a bit like uncomfortable for some players anyway, right? So you have to maybe go a softer string, like you said, and increase the tension a bit, because otherwise that racket might be a little lively overall if you don't play if you play a low tension, I would say.
Yeah, I know, I agree. Yeah, Pure Drive, it's got a lot of pop and it's for slapping the ball. So definitely consider slightly higher tension, and then I think going with a softer elastic cross can help with the dwell time because I find the Pure Drive just to run a little bit hot for me. So yeah, just getting the ball, holding the ball on the string bed a little bit longer, I think would help. Yeah, kind of in terms of I think the feel and connectedness for me would be great.
We also have a few requests for black strings. You are pretty famous for your many options of different colors. Like you can really get like a good pairing in terms of color with your particular racket. But many of them ask for black strings. But you do have Snap TF. Do you have Otoro Black now?
Otoro Black, yeah. So yeah, we heard the feedback. So we've dropped 2 black strings already this year. So A5 is a carbon, so pretty close to black, but obviously slightly grayer. But yeah, we've dropped 2 already this year. So we're looking into more neutral colored strings. That's why we're doing the gray Truffle X.
What's the tent doing here? Who's inside? What in the world? Holy cow! What are you doing? What are you doing here now? Did you just cut the gut? Hey! What are you doing? Come back! Ugh! I think you left this! Hey, come back! Do you want this? Well, he left this here. Let's see what's inside. Ooh, gray strings. Well, I guess I'll use these, since he cut all the gut out of my racket.
But yeah, we love to hear the feedback on colors. So we're all about the colors. We don't discriminate.
Yeah, it's fun to have many options, and also in terms of what we talked about over there as well. It's like there's so many blue rackets now, so then you have the mint strings like Otoro Tour, for example, that it kind of slots in perfectly with the big armada of blue rackets.
Yeah, I think this we like kind of pair nicely. Boom, boom. This one right here. So yeah, there's a lot of nice color combinations. We want to drop more colors, more models in a scalable way. So we'd love to hear what you guys think about, the colors. And if there's a certain model that you're like, oh, I wish there was like a mint Otoro. Yeah, we definitely love to hear the feedback. And we're trying to always expand our offerings.
Cool. Yeah. So, and that's also one question that's kind of interesting. Like you are doing many different colors, and you want to have also obviously that kind of option for the consumer. Is it tough for the consumer in one way to get an overview of what is what in among all your strings? What is your strategy around the different options you have and the different strings and colors?
Yeah, the colors do also play a part in the playability, right? For some of the strings. So just an example, if you look at Otoro, like the white one is the stiffest out of the bunch, but just slightly. We do try to tweak the formula so that it's not overly different in terms of if it's the same model but just different color. But there are some variations in terms of playability. I would say the neon colors in general play a little bit more lively, a little more elastic. So if you want that kind of more elastic response, I think maybe try like a neon color. The darker colors like black, I think play slightly firmer. But yeah, not overly different. I would say too, like one of the interesting things that we heard from like pro players is that some of the brighter colors they don't love as much, just because when you put the bright colors in the string bed, and if you're looking behind the string bed at the ball, sometimes like the ball will like for them the ball will blend in with the string. So visually, like they just don't love that. Hence why we started dropping all these white colored strings because there's like a lot better contrast, right, between a bright green ball and then a white string bed. So we try to hear all the feedback and try to accommodate. So we'll definitely drop more colors, and I think neutral colors are very popular on the Pro Tour. They don't want it to be too distracting when they're playing. So we definitely have taken that feedback, and that's why we have so many white color strings. And I think if you look at the market, there's actually not that many white color coat polys or high performance coat polys.
Do you think like accentuating like your racket and choosing your like visual preference, is that important to consumer? Is that one reason you have all these options to actually be able to express yourself also visually through your kind of racket setup?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Honestly, like we've grown quite a bit organically just through strings like K-pop, which have like a color shifting effect. It has like a neon pink mains, neon yellow cross. So, when players take that to their country club and you see the crazy color shift, even if you may not know like Carousel, it's like you're gonna be interested in the combo and see what's going on there. And you can like create, similar combo color effects with like, if you took like an orange Ochoro and then a green Ochoro Chor. Yeah, we want obviously players to have fun with it. And that's why we cut everything into two half sets. So any Toroline string package, even if it's like one model, you'll get two half sets, which I think stringers also appreciate a lot. As a stringer myself, it's way faster. It's like the tour standard. If you go into like Indian Wells, get your racket strung as a pro player, even if it's like the same string on the mains and cross, they're gonna do two half sets, right? One is just way faster. Like you don't have to keep pulling through like 40 feet of string through the mains. And it also allows customers to mix and match, right? So if you get, let's say, two different packs of Toroline string, you can just take one half set from each pack and then give it to your stringer, and then you can save the other half sets for later. Versus like if you just had two 40 set feet, then it's like you basically have to cut 20 feet off and hope you have enough for the next like racket that you're going to do the hybrid with. So just having, I think the two half sets is hopefully very beneficial for not just the customer, but for the stringer as well. And it costs us a lot more money to do that, but I think it's really the small things that companies do to help grow the brand.
Yeah, and I think that's very, I mean, it's something I really appreciate, like the ease of use of that, of just having it's pre-cut, so you don't have to measure. And I mean, you do save some time, and if you string a lot, like it's kind of important, I feel like. And also you don't have to worry about the one string being like not enough, which can
Yeah, we're pretty generous
sometimes.
we try to keep it generous with the cuts, especially like if you're using something like Truffle X versus like maybe before you used natural gut and you had like, let's say a 40 feet of natural gut, you know, there is like some sort of shelf life with natural gut because it's a, you know, natural product. So just having the 2 half sets is, I think, nice. Because then what do you do with like the other, you know, half set of like natural gut? You got to like eventually use it, right? You can't just let it sit out for months or, you know, years at a time.
And getting into like what you offer on the website as well could be kind of interesting. Like you do have the string bar where people can choose their custom blend and their custom hybrid, and you get their name printed on the packaging as well. And you do list like different like strings, the stiffness, and mention some things on the website there. How has that been going for you, the string bar? I had never seen anything similar to that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. So we have to like hand select all the strings in our warehouse as you put in the order, right? And we also have to print the custom labels, you know, in our warehouse as well. So it's I think one of our fastest growing segments for Toroline, just because it's kind of like golf, right? When you play golf, like everyone has their name on the golf ball. So I think it's fun for customers to basically make their own string, right? Like, if you look at a lot of the pro players on tour, like they don't have their own string. So we kind of want to take that concept, make it fun for the customers, and then mixing and matching. Obviously, we definitely try to push that. So just I think having string bar, it's like you don't have to buy 2 packages of 2 different string. Now you can just build your custom blend. And then, you know, if it's not for you or if you want to try something else, fine tune it. Like you don't have just other string that you purchase that you don't necessarily need. So we're trying to eliminate wastage as well through string bars. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of work. We have like one person that really just does this all day. But yeah, it's I think it's fun too. We get a lot of feedback too from customers when they do the string bar, kind of, you know, what's working for them or not. And they're always asking, you know, to add more options on it. So yeah, if there's a string model that you don't see on it that we haven't added, so it's now we'll look into it.
And then you have raw cuts, which is kind of cutting out the packaging. If you just want to have a more eco-conscious format, do people order that, or is it like kind of rare that people want to go for a raw cut?
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, we try to be eco-friendly as possible. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of customers. Like we came up with like the idea just because we had a lot of customers said that they love how our packaging looks like, but after they, you know, see it once, they don't necessarily need to see it multiple times. Obviously it works better. It's more for like in-store purchases, right? If you're going to a tennis shop, we obviously want our packaging to pop. But yeah, if we can eliminate wastage, like definitely, yeah, check out raw cuts. We also donate a tree for every order that has a raw cuts string in it. So we partner with a company to kind of manage, you know, growing all the trees. So that's also a nice thing that we hopefully that we can do to, you know, help better the planet. So yeah, check out raw cuts if you're like packaging is nice, but I don't need that much packaging. Then yeah, definitely check out raw cuts. Same price too. So there's also a lot more work because we have to tag all the strings, right? Because you don't want to just give like raw, like basically a untagged string. So there is like a little sticker like that's eco-friendly that we put on the string as well, just so it can identify like the gauge, the model, etc.
You seem to have like kind of found a way to innovate in the string industry. Was that kind of your plan from the beginning when you entered into this? With I think your first string was the Caviar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Caviar. That's one of our OG ones, and then Absolute. But yeah, like we want to have fun with it. Like I grew up playing tennis. You know, since I've been 6 years old, play college tennis. It's something that yeah, like I'm really passionate about. I'm like kind of like you, like a tennis nerd myself. So I'm always like trying to tinker and. You know, we actually get a lot of good feedback from customers on things like, hey, can you ship the string without the packaging? Like, we want to hear all that good stuff because, like, we're trying to improve like how we do business and accommodate customers, and that's why we have so many options of string and why we purely kind of want to focus on strings versus like making rackets and other accessories that you know I think kind of take away from our mission. We just want to do one thing, do it the best that we possibly can, and yeah, have you know hopefully some sort of impact on the tennis community. But you know, without the customers' feedback and you know obviously all the comments that we hear and see, we wouldn't really be where we are today. So we appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah, feedback is important, of course, and so are questions. I have a few more questions before I can let you go and play tennis or whatever you have planned for the day. The day is ending over here in Europe. I'm in Spain right now, getting close to dinner time almost.
Yeah, how's your jet lag?
Caviar. It's not too bad actually for now because I slept like 11 hours. I had
Okay.
36 hours of traveling for like that's 2 days of traveling pretty much, and a lot of
Yep.
waiting and changing planes and so today I needed like 11 hour sleep.
That's good. That's good. You deserve it. You deserve it. You're all over
It
the
was a lot.
state
It was a lot.
for 2.5 weeks, so you deserve it.
Yeah, it was a good trip, but yeah, so your body needs to rest a bit as well. Two more questions here. Long time caviar ghost wire user. That's an interesting combo. Looking for something to replace the caviar that is softer. Any suggestions? This is from Mark Brodor.
Curious if he uses 124, 120, because we have 124 kind of on the first tier, right, of kind of firmer strings. So if you're at the 124, I would say Otoro spin are good options. If you're trying to keep the same shape as caviar, which is hexagonal, then Otoro is a really good bet. It has more spin, has a softer flex. So yeah, I would say Otoro is a good option if you like that. And then if you want to experiment and swap out your cross, I would say Snap is a really good option. Yeah, it has really good I would say good snapback. That's kind of what it's for, right? Because it's round, it's super slick. It's also got a softer flex than even Otoro. So I think yeah, that combo right there, Otoro and Otoro Snap would be a good option.
We have one more here. I switched from Blade 100 to Ultra 100, so more power for sure. He was very happy with Mac 10 in the Blade, but it's too muted for the Ultra. Gonna try Enso Pro and Snapper next. Any other Toroline suggestions? I want a lively, comfortable poly, but more connected, crisp feel than Mac 10. I also generally prefer rounded profiles.
Oh yeah, then if you like rounded, I would say check out A5. Can't go wrong with A5 there. Yeah, it's gonna have a firmer response than Mach 10, but because I would say round strings like tend to have a more plush, less like crisp feel, right? So even though it has like a stiffer like static stiffness, it's gonna have like that plush kind of response from round strings, and it'll play a little bit more pure because I think Mach 10's pentagonal. So yeah, I would say check out A5. That's good bets. You can also blend A5 with Otoro 120. This is actually a really popular string for us. So a lot of players that were using Otoro 123 that, they like that string, but then wanted to try something that's maybe a little bit more stable. This is a really good option, right? And keep the same amount of spin. This Otoro 120, I think is a good option with maybe A5 on the cross.
Yeah, I think also A5 full bed could work because the Ultra 100 is a very dampened racket. I feel like so it does kind of work well. I mean, it's not very stiff, like in terms of harsh on the arm. It has a power, but it's kind of a little bit trampoliny. So I think the A5 full bed, or as you suggested, maybe try Otoro Tour 120. I think many people don't know maybe that it exists, the thinner gauge Otoro Tour, because obviously that's softer. So that's an interesting one to try as well, I would say. We have one more question, last one here about the racket and string pairings. There is no what string is suitable for the Ezone 98 tour? And I did mention Otoro Tour, and I think that should be maybe number one, depending on your level. I guess you're a pretty good player if you play Otoro. If you play the Ezone Tour, it's a pretty heavy racket. Maybe you have some other options.
Yeah, Otoro. So I would say Otoro Tori, that could be a good option. If you do use this one, maybe try dropping the tension. I will say A5 would be really good too on that one. I can't go wrong with A5 because it's got that like, pure connected response. Depends on like your power level too. Ezone 98 Tour. Honestly, you could try Otoro on the cross as well. I would say like Otoro Tour mains, and then try a softer cross like Otoro. And then just go 2 pounds lower on the cross. Like I think that's a good option if you're trying to like open up the string bed a little bit. Because I imagine the sweet spot maybe with the tour model, it's like not as forgiving, maybe as a regular Ezone 98. So I think having the softer cross string will kind of like be a little bit more forgiving. So that would be a good option there.
And there is one more question here. Solinko Whiteout V1 1820. I'm looking for maximum comfort, but I think I can almost answer that one. It's like Otoro, I would say generally like soft enough, but still gives you a little bit of spin potential, which is good for 1820. We did mention earlier, like in the conversation, like Blades, TF40, and these kind of radical MP rackets that have a dense pattern. I think getting a softer string that is shaped is generally a good recommendation because you get a bit more lift, a bit more power, but it still should hold control pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. And then 1820, I personally like to go a lot lower on the cross, just because, like you said, there's so much string in the racket that it kind of limits the snapback, right? So just going a little bit lower on the cross, like allowing the mains just to move more freely, I think is a good way to experiment. And I also find that when I go lower on the cross, which allows the mains to move more freely, actually for me it translates to like a softer response. So if you're trying to maximize comfort, try that string method. I think it could help a little bit as well.
Awesome. I think we got some questions answered. We got some discussion points there. Is there anything else you want to share to the tennis nerds out there before we close this one?
No, yeah, we appreciate the feedback. Yeah, Jonas and I are always like just nerding out about what the tennis community is talking about. So we love to hear the good, the bad, and we definitely try to take that back to the lab and see how we can improve as a company. And we're always trying to push the boundaries of what you can do with tennis strings. We're always trying to try new materials outside of just polyester to give everyone a really unique feel and kind of help everyone find their perfect racket and string combo.
Awesome, Eric. You're doing a great job at that. And yeah, you're welcome on the pod or on the videos anytime. I think you will see Eric a lot in coming videos because he did the review some of the upcoming rackets with me. Some of this stuff we shot and tried, we cannot publish until like media embargoes allow us to, because it's obviously the companies want to have their launch and us not to do it before their launch. But you're going to see plenty of Eric in future videos on Tennis Nerd. So a big thanks to you, Eric.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely get you back here in LA, and hopefully, we can try more stuff. I mean, it's never ending process, right? You can never stop with one racket and one string. So
you got to keep testing.
Yeah, you're always looking for another edge or something to blame on when you lose. So
cool, man. Thanks a lot for chatting today. Huh?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Awesome.